Yesterday I was reading a book of Shri Swamiji. I think it was his satsang, it was his lecture. And the name of the book is Yoga Chakra, the wheel of yoga. The round circle is a wheel, and the wheel of yoga is called Yoga Chakra. That Yoga Chakra on which our system is based, on which our school philosophy is based. The chakras, the wheel of yoga. This wheel has 6 spokes. And the first 3 spokes is called Bahirang Yoga, and the next 3 spokes are called Antarang Yoga. The Bahirang Yoga is for the external benefit. The 3 spokes, let me name you. The first one is called Hatha Yoga. The second one is called Raj Yoga, and the third yoga form is Kriya Yoga. These 3 forms, Swamiji says, is a Bahirang Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga, and the Kriya Yoga. And the last 3 spokes which I named, which is called Antarang Yoga, which brings changes at your inner level, in the inner mind, at the mental level, at the sentimental level, at the sanskara level. These 3 spokes are named. These 3 different forms of yoga are Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So these 3 spokes are called Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So combining these 2, Bahirang and Antarang Yoga, these 6 different forms of yoga is wheel of yoga, the Yoga Chakra. That is my first point. Just explaining you these 6 different forms of yoga. First 3 is Bahiranga Yoga, and the next 3 is Antaranga Yoga. Hope it is clear. Now the question is how to measure, how to judge, how to assess the progress in yoga that you are making or not. Whether you are making progress in yoga, in your spiritual life or not, how to assess it, how to measure it. So Swamiji says, in general, like people say that having control over desire or compassion or aspirations or worldly interest and having contentment in life, that is basically a measure that we are progressing in our yoga practice, in our spiritual life. That is the general term by, even the Buddha said, Swami Shivananda said, Swami Satyananda said about this. But what Swami Niranjan says, he says that if we have to measure our progress in our yoga practice, if we have to measure our progress in our spiritual life, then we need to divide our life into 3 phases, 3 compartments. Not as per age, that if we have 80 years or 90 years, 30 years of ages, not that way. Division as per your experiences, division as per your achievements. And the first phase, he says, is the having mastery over your senses and interactions of the mind. The first phase is having mastery over your senses and the interactions of the mind. So what he says mostly in this phase, everything that we do is for our self-gratification, self-contentment, for happiness, growth, fulfillment in our life. So whether you are practicing yoga, you are visiting a yoga center, or you are going for a spiritual retreat, or you are reading literature or having satsang, everything is dedicated for your self-growth. Here comes the role of your Bahiranga Yoga that I mentioned, the practices from Hatha Yoga, practices from Raj Yoga, practices from Kriya Yoga. And through these modes, through these components of yoga, you attain mastery over your senses and mastery over your mind, the interactions of the mind. This is the first stage. And if you do not gain mastery over your senses and the mind, you cannot think over going deeper into your deeper state of minds and think about any kind of a spiritual evolution or a spiritual upliftment. Someday you think of sitting in meditation, you sit down, shut your eyes, you are looking for peace, harmony in your life with the practice of meditation. But what happens? These emotions of anger, jealous, enviousness, comes to the surface while meditation, and you're thrown back, you're pulled back to that gross level, the gross nature of the mind once again. The first and foremost thing is to have the control over the senses and control and mastery over your mind through these mediums, through the practices of Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga, and Kriya Yoga practices. And then the next phase, the next compartment begins where we deal with the inner mind, and we deal with the emotions, we deal with the sentiments, we deal with the sanskaras that we have. The sanskaras are the building blocks of our life. Sanskaras drive us all through in our life. So this second phase is the working on our inner mind, working on our sanskaras, working on our emotions. So this is the second compartment, and here we have the changes in our personality. Here we transform ourselves. We look for the transformation within at the emotional level and at the sanskara level. And how it happens? It happens through the three components of yoga that I mentioned, that is the Antaranga Yoga, through the practices of Karma Yoga, through the practices of Bhakti Yoga, and through the practices of Jnana Yoga. So here these three forms becomes very, very vital. The Karma Yoga, the Bhakti Yoga, and the Jnana Yoga. Through these forms, we bring in some internal changes at the inner level, at the emotional level, at the sanskara level, and then we become more spiritual. Then we progress in our spiritual life. So we don't only have to progress in this spiritual life, we have to progress at the same time at the spiritual level and at the behavioral level also. We have to become more practical too. We don't have to become very, very rigid or stiff. Rigidity is not a spirituality. Being aloof from the world is not a spirituality. Spirituality means that you can adopt, you can adjust, we can accept any situation, any circumstances. It is like the water. You put the water into any container, it takes the shape of that container. The spirituality is the same. Any situation, any circumstances, any suffering, any hardships, we have to adjust to it. We have to live with it. So that is basically spirituality. And that we gain through the practice of what? Through the practice of Antaranga Yoga, of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. So first we gain mastery over senses and mastery over the mind through the practice of Bhairang Yoga, the Hatha Yoga, the Raj Yoga, and Kriya Yoga, and then we transform ourselves, transform our sanskaras, transform our emotions, transform our sentiments, and we become more spiritual. And when we have both in our life, the mastery over the senses, mastery over the mind, and the management of sanskaras, management of sentiments, management of emotions, then emerges in our life the union of experience of union, experience of yoga comes in our life. That is the culmination of these 6 components of yoga, the Yoga Chakra. We attain peace in our life. We attain sambhav, balance in our life. We attain samatvam, equanimity in life. We attain atma bhav in our life. Atma bhav means feeling of oneness with others. Like the one who is sitting inside you is sitting in others also. That is the expression, that is the experience of Atma Bhav. So this state is achieved with the practice of Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga all together. Then we attain this state where this is a state of peace, state of shanti, state of yoga, state of samatvam, state of sthita pragya, state of atma bhav, state of sambhav. And that is the whole intention that we have. That is the whole idea that we are practicing yoga. That is the culmination of yoga. That's all for today. This is the expression of Shri Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati, that this way that we can measure, this way we can assess the progress in our life. Progress, the assessment of yoga, whether it's working or not. Assessment that whether we are growing or not. Assessment that where we have reached in our spiritual adhyatmic life. And where are we? We are at 0 level. No control over the mind, no control over the senses. We are just practicing some exercise, some pranayam, nothing else. So this is basically the measurement that we can keep measuring ourselves, that where we have progressed and where we have reached, we have to reach in our life.